Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. On behalf of the cadets and the United States Military Academy at West Point, we want to thank you all for your general hospitality. We've had a phenomenal time here getting to know many of you, traveling locally and engaging in a lot of food. We definitely enjoy that. I told them they would gain a lot out of this trip, and we're all going to be gaining a lot of weight out of this trip, but that's all right. My name is Captain Jacob Absalon. I am an armor officer in the United States Army. I teach sociology and military leadership at our academy. I started my career as a lieutenant in an airborne unit, conducting reconnaissance and surveillance in the Afghanistan-Pakistani border for about a year, and then as a captain I went on to command a tank company of Abrams. And now I'm back teaching and having a lot of fun with it. I really enjoy it. I love these chances to travel internationally, to meet people that I will soon be working with in the future. And I know many of you will someday run into the 4 of the cadets that came out here, or maybe even me. That's right. All right, this is West Point. It is the westernmost point of the Hudson River north of New York City. We were founded over 200 years ago in 1802. It is the oldest military installation that is still being currently used in the Army. And we have a lot of traditions. We shared one of those last night with you at Culture Night. And if you can't see it in the very middle, that's our Corps Cadets on parade. We do a number of parades as well, and we have about 4,000 students at our academy. Our mission here is to train, educate, train, and inspire the Corps of Cadets so that each graduate is a commissioned leader of character. Now, this mission talks about service to the nation and not necessarily the Army. West Point commissions officers in the United States Army. We have another academy called the United States Naval Academy that commissions officers in the Naval, or the Navy. And we have the United States Air Force Academy that commissions officers in the Air Force. And both of them are about 4,000 as well. So every year we commission about 3,000 officers across all 3 academies. All right. So we have over 4,000 cadets from our states and all of our territories as well. We provide the Army with about 1,000 graduates every year. But as freshmen, we start with about 1,300. So at least 300 of our students do not make it through the 47 or the 4-year experience. As a minimum, all of our graduates serve for 5 years in the Army, and then 3 years of reserve service as well. We are an international academy. We have 57 cadets from 32 different countries stay for the entire 4-year experience. But on top of that, we have almost 30 cadets come over for single semester abroad opportunities. And then during our summer training, and we'll have one of our cadets share later some of those experiences, but some of them come over to train at our airborne schools, our air assault schools, or some of our field training that our sophomores and freshmen go through every single summer. Now, our leadership development system is based on 4 pillars. All right, academic, military, and physical, and character. You're all very familiar with all of these, and they've changed over time, and the cadets will share how these have changed over time. So intellectual over academics, we used to only be an engineering academy. It was it. Everybody who went to West Point majored in engineering. We now have over 37 majors. Physically, it used to be a single test. Now we have about 5 or 6 different physical assessments for cadets to take. Militarily, we're based in a 4-class system, so you're going to hear things from the cadets today talk about our upper and lower class. So our freshmen are 4th class cadets, and they're called plebes. Barbarians, for like the Roman Empire, the very bottom of society. And that's how we treat them sometimes. Our sophomores, so 3rd class cadets, as we move up, that means they've been at the academy for 2 years. They're called yearlings because they've been there a year. And that's what a baby deer at about a year is called. Our juniors, all right, they've been there 3 years at the academy, and it used to be that after 2 years at the academy, you could take a break and go home, and you could decide, is this really worth it? Do I want to be in the Army? Is this something that I'm excited about? So you would have cadets go home after 2 years and come back fat from being home and not working out, so we call them cows. So all of our juniors are called cows. Interesting. All 4 of our cadets here today are cows. So when you walk up and see them, we call them a cow. All right, and then our firsties, which is our 1st class cadets, are seniors. We call firsties because they're at the top. Our cadet rank system, only our seniors are cadet officers. Everybody below them are cadet sergeants, cadet corporals, or cadet privates, and there's a few variations from that. So you're going to hear some of those words here today. And character. Character is hard to define, and it's tough to get at sometimes, but we found ways to develop those who make mistakes. At the Academy, we want to learn as much from our failures as we do from our success. Back in the day, if you ever committed an honor violation or you committed a regs violation, you did something wrong, they grabbed you in the night, threw you on the passing train, and you never came back. All right? We don't do that anymore for a number of reasons. It sounds dangerous. All right, but we have a new system in place to measure and understand character. So now I'll turn it over to the cadets to share their experiences, and I'll be followed by Cadet Aiden Baxter, who will be talking to you about our academic program.
Hi guys, I'm Cadet Aiden Baxter. Like Captain Absalom said, I'm a Cal Junior, class of 2019. I'm on the West Point Judo team, and I'm in Company B1, and I'm a sociology major. So I'll be talking to you guys about the academic pillar at West Point. So we just finished a meeting with your guys' commandant, and we actually talked about this a little bit, which is why our academics the way they are at West Point. And it's the same as here. We want to create officers who are critical thinkers. When you get out in the force and you see a problem, you don't just go to the manual, you think outside the box. And so the way academics are structured at West Point are to inspire cadets to become thinkers who can, think on their own. They can construct creative solutions to new problems. And it's very similar, I think you guys will see, to how you guys are taught here. So over the past couple days, had the opportunity to hang out with some of your guys, featuring I've been with me and Jim, and then where'd she go? Putrine and CT have been with our girls. So we've seen your guys' daily life a little bit, and it's pretty similar to ours. Sorry about the pronunciation of your name. So just like you guys, we wake up 0600. One major difference at West Point is we don't start every day with PT. Our PT is actually in the afternoon at 16:15 to 18:30. I know some of you guys PT in the afternoon here as well. So we go to breakfast, we go to classes from 07:05 to 11:55, just like you guys. Have lunch, don't eat as much as you guys, fortunately. Otherwise you actually see right here, this is the mess hall at West Point. It seats 4,000 cadets at once. All 4,000 come in, and 30 minutes later, everyone's fed and out. So it's pretty quick. After lunch, we go back to class from about 1300 to 1600. 1600 to about 1830. We'll do sports and Cadet Batute. Kayla will talk about that a little bit later. So we have a bunch of different sports teams. See the photo here. Not me, but my buddy, throwing Canadian. After sports, we'll go to dinner at 19:30, and then from dinner onwards, just doing homework and studying. So like I said, pretty similar to your guys' schedule, although we have a lot less formations than you guys. Something that's pretty unique about West Point and the way we do the education system is we use what's called the Thayer method. So the Thayer method was invented by Colonel Sylvanus Thayer in 1817. So at the time, West Point was kind of falling apart, didn't really know what it was doing. Cadets were just leaving and getting drunk whenever they wanted. It was just a mess. And then Colonel Thayer came in, and he said, no, we're not going to do it like that. And so he instilled discipline in the Corps cadets. He had people, there's a great story about Colonel Thayer. He was the commandant at the time, and he'd have the cadets parade on the field, and he'd stand there with a telescope, and he'd look at cadets through the telescope. And if anyone messed up, he'd call them into his office. Just get on about it. Great guy. So he invented the academic system we use, which we call the Thayer method, non-acronym. So the focus of the Thayer method is that instead of coming to class like in a lot of traditional universities and not being prepared, not having done the reading beforehand, and then the teacher teaches you the material, we teach ourselves the material the night before, the day before. So when we come to class, we already know what we're supposed to have learned, and then we can ask the teacher questions to clarify. We can be tested on it. We have lots of tests and quizzes, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And so the goal here is, like I was talking about earlier, when you become an officer, you're not used to just having the solution handed to you. You know how to go out there and teach yourself and become a critical thinker. So if you're an officer, you're deployed somewhere and you need to figure out how to deal with an insurgent force, you can go out there, you can research, you can study how it's been done, you can interact with the locals, and you've had this critical thinking developed. So that when you can also instruct your guys, because as an officer, like you're commissioned as second lieutenant, platoon leader, in charge of anywhere from 20 to 40 guys, more depending on where you're at. So that's the whole reason behind the Thayer method. So an example of how we use the Thayer method is something you'll hear a lot in a West Point classroom is take boards, which no cadet wants to hear. It's just awful. Because you go up to the chalkboard and the teacher will ask you a question and everybody writes their answer out there for the whole class to see, and then one person gets their task to brief it. So now you have to explain to the whole class what you learned, and if you're like me and sometimes you don't know it, it's pretty rough. You're like, I don't know. And really embarrassing. And another major thing about the Thayer method is that it relies on teacher accessibility. The largest class size we'll have at West Point is 18 cadets, and often it's even less than that. So, teacher accessibility, we're actually ranked the #1 school for teacher accessibility by the Princeton Review, so we're pretty proud of that. It's a big thing at West Point. It relies on a long and small class size, like I was saying, less than 18 students, and something we call additional instruction, which you can go in for help tutoring. So like, something personal experience I had with that, starting a presentation the night before it was due, and I had no idea what I was doing. It's a pretty common theme, you'll hear through my stories. It's completely lost. And so I sent my teacher a text. And this actually has happened with Captain Absalom as well, so he's very well familiar with my style. I said, hey sir, I don't know what's happening. Can I come meet with you? And like a couple hours later, I was in his office talking about the presentation. I did okay, so it works out. So that's a really big thing about teacher accessibility. We also have the Center for Enhanced Performance, which is, again, going back to that critical thinking part. It's there they teach you how to speed read, so you can get up to reading a couple hundred words a minute and retaining the information. They teach you how to think and teach yourself. So that's a really valuable resource that West Point provides. Just like you guys, we have a mixture of civilian and military instructors. So you can see the breakdown here. We have 52% are active officers on rotation, like Captain Absalom. We have 90% officers stationed there. That'll be more like the commandant, dean, really high-ranking guys. And then there's actually 29% civilians. A cool thing about West Point is that the officer instructors, they're not just there to teach you, they're also involved in your life. So they're coaches on sponsors of sports teams, they are head of clubs. They're really involved with cadet lives. They're out there and they're doing things with you. They're not just in the classroom. So you interact with them all the time. West Point offers 37 majors now. Used to just be an engineering school. Now we've got everything from sociology, psychology, management, economics, electrical engineering, language. And finally, like I mentioned earlier, assessment. West Point's really big on assessments. So throughout the semester, you'll have a series of tests and exams. We call them RITs and WPRs because West Point has a special name for everything. And so those just test your knowledge. You can come to class. Sometimes there's surprises, which is always fun. And oftentimes we block quizzes. At the end of each semester, we have what we call a T, a term-end exam, which is the final, that tests on the whole material. And you have to, in most classes, if you fail the T, you fail the course. And again, just talking about that application to officership, developing critical thinkers, public speakers. Like I didn't know I was doing this presentation until I got here. So West Point wants to develop it so that you can be able to just get in front of a crowd of people and talk and let them know what's happening. Finally, here's a breakdown of the academic program at West Point. I want to talk about all of it, but of note is that we take 4 military classes. So even during the academic year, you're still involved in a military curriculum, as Kayla will talk about in a bit. We also take 7 physical education classes. So Sean's going to talk about, flip that. Sean will talk about military, Kayla will talk about physical. And you can see that throughout the year, we're constantly doing physical, constantly doing military. So it's a big blend, and that's something West Point's really about. So I'm going to be followed by Sean Hurley, talking about the military building.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cadet Sean Hurley, and I'm also a Cal, so I will be graduating in 2019, in Michigan, hopefully. And I'm a sociology major, so Captain Absalom is one of my professors. I have been involved with the lacrosse team at West Point, and I'm going to talk to you about the military pillar, so the military training that we do both in the summer and during the school year. And obviously this is important because we are the United States Military Academy. And one of our initiatives this past year is to put the M back in USMA. So, so the military is very important to us. And throughout my presentation, I'll be showing you some pictures, and they're pictures that I took during training so that you can see from a cadet perspective what we do. This is from last summer, around the same time, at a training facility we have called Camp Buckner. It's about 15 minutes away from West Point, and we were about to go on a 1-week mission to demonstrate everything we had learned for the past few weeks with a squad. And so you have to pass Camp Buckner in order to get to your second year and learn on the field training there. So that's just a depiction of us getting out of the helicopter there. As you have seen from the pictures, some of our uniforms are kind of interesting. This is one of our, probably our most formal uniform that the cadets are wearing. And this is a picture from 100 years ago. Cadets getting ready to drill and the rifles being inspected, making sure everything is clean, and the cadets all are ready to go and have been practicing. Now this is a picture from present day cadets. As you can see, not a lot has changed in 100 years with uniform-wise, and that's one amazing thing about West Point is our connection to the past. In some of our songs that we have, it's we talk about the long gray line, and that's to talk about the color of our uniforms, is that throughout time, being a part of the long gray line is something that we hold very dear to our hearts. As you can see, this is a picture from during the school year. So during the school year, we do parades and ceremonies just like you guys do before our football games. Anytime someone very important comes, we put on a parade for them. On the sleeves of the uniforms are the cadet ranks. So I will have a chevron up here on my shoulder when I go back in the fall. These cadets are firsties, so they will commission in a year, and they have more complicated ranks for their different jobs. So during the school year, this is our four-class system. Cadets are assigned a job. So the cadet with 6 chevrons and a star, he is the first captain, which is the cadet in charge of everyone at the school. And cadets have to compete for different positions, and they change every year. Now, this is a picture of us drilling at the Army-Navy football game. It is a football game, American football, played in December. It's the very last game in college football every year. And it's when the Naval Academy plays the Military Academy. And this past year, we actually won for the first time in 14 years, so really exciting about that. Kayla will touch more on the physical stuff we get to do in her presentation. But I have been going to this game every year of my life, and I grew up watching these people march onto the field and really looking up to them even as a young kid. So these past 2 years when I got to march out in uniform with everyone, it was an awesome experience. I'm sure many of you have parents in the military that you looked up to. So for me, this is an awesome moment. This picture is one of the lower points of training. We practice using our protection masks against gas in a pretend gas chamber. So that's what that face is for. You get a lot of mucus and snot and stuff coming out of the gas chamber. So that's just one of the real-life applications that we do during training. Above it is a schedule of what the basic summers look like for each year. So your first summer at the academy is when you're a plebe, and you will do cadet basic training. You go, get your head shaved, like we saw in your video, you get in uniform, you say goodbye to your family, and you start on this crazy experience. Older cadets will lead you through it, but it's really just an introduction to show you what life is going to be like and to prepare you to enter the school year. We do some military training during that time at the end of it, but at the beginning it's more of learning what life at West Point is going to be like. And that's a 6-week experience during the summer and before the school year starts. The second summer, your yearling year, is when you're at Camp Buckner. That is called cadet field training. So you won't be back at the academy in the barracks. You'll be out in the field for 5 weeks, I believe. 5 weeks or 4 weeks. Not exactly sure. I try to block it out. But It's very fun. We do a lot of different field training exercises. It's also led by other cadets. We learn basic infantryman skills. So every cadet will learn basic infantry tactics and how to set up patrol bases and things like that. Even though we might commission into different jobs, every cadet learns how to be an infantryman. The summer that we're experiencing right now, your cow summer, we sometimes you'll be leadership for either Buckner or Cleavier, or basic training. And then your first year, we have cadet leader development training, which is a 2-week field exercise that's very immersive and it's led by officers. And then we also have cadet troop leadership training, where you go and shadow a real officer for a month and see how they do their job. And this is just diving into field training more. This is a picture that I took doing land navigation. So as you can see, West Point is in the mountains, and there's lots of swamps and the Hudson River is right there. So we learn how to do land navigation in the mountains, which can be pretty hard sometimes, but it's also fun. So these are just some examples of stuff we do during field training. We do live fire exercises, so we train for a few days and do real exercises with live bullets. And then we also do urban operations. We have a few shell houses, so like empty houses, and we learn how to clear them effectively with a team. We also learn field artillery, armor, and combat engineers. So we will go out for a few days with different real units, and they will teach us their jobs during cadet field training. We also have a few military schools available to cadets. Air Assault School is offered at West Point. This just recently started a few years ago, and we're very fortunate because now a lot of cadets can become Air Assault qualified. Airborne School is down in Georgia, but a lot of cadets are also sent there as well. And those are two schools that you're kind of chosen for if you ask to go to that school. But then you have some other schools that are more competitive and you have to try out. So those include SEER School, Combat Dive School, and Special Forces Selection School. And so SEER School is survival, evasion, resistance, escape, and Combat Dive, obviously water operations. And then we also have Sapper School, Brazilian Mountain School, French Commando, and Jungle Warfare. So the ones in bold are foreign, obviously foreign academy schools. And so that's a pretty unique opportunity that West Point cadets have, that they can go and not only meet people from other military academies and forces, but also train alongside them, which is very unique. Training with someone who maybe speaks a different language, has different rules for their military, which is pretty amazing, like we're learning to do here. And the other schools, it's also not only cadets. There's officers there, there's enlisted people there. So going to one of these schools really exposes you to what life as an officer is going to be like, interacting with people of all ranks. And now I will be joined by Cadet Caleb Matute, who will present the physical pillar.
And the minimum, as well as the sit-ups max and minimum, as well as the 2-mile time run. So, the next physical assessment we have is the indoor obstacle course test. So basically you have to climb a shelf as depicted in the image here. And you have to climb a rope, you have to jump through a tire. I have a video that'll show you all of this, but it's different obstacles that you have to complete in a certain amount of time, which is depicted in this chart here. And here is the video. That's the shelf. Now he's going around. He's coming around to the high bar. Go down. He's jumping through the tire. Up the balance beam. He has to climb a wall. And then there's a set of monkey bars. He has to go across. around 200 meters. And then he has a baton that he has to carry around an additional 200 meters. And then for the final 100 meters, you just sprint until you finish. So it's a smoker. So the final physical assessment that I'll be talking about is the occupational physical assessment test. So we're moving towards a more occupational driven Army, whereas men and women are allowed to participate in combat roles. So the best way to assess whether you're competent enough to participate in a specific branch that you might want to enter is using this test. So the test consists of standing long jump, power throw, deadlift, and an interval aerobic run. So finally, we have athletics as sports, different sports we have that you can participate in at the academy, because every cadet has to participate in either a Division I sport, a club sport, or intramurals. So these are our Division I sports, the most popular at least. We have American football, we do have soccer as well, men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball, hockey, men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse. Like, we have a lot of different D1 sports that you can play at the academy that are all ranked pretty well. And as Sean mentioned earlier, our Army team, our Army football team, just beat Navy for the first time in 14 years, so it's a big deal. Moving forward, these are our club sports. This is actually an image of myself in my first boxing match. So our top club sports include men's boxing, women's boxing, judo, climbing, men's handball, and women's handball. And then finally, we have our intramurals. So depending on which semester, we have different seasonal intramural sports that you can compete in your company. So for the fall semester, we have flag football, basketball, swim, and wrestling. And then for the spring semester, we have ultimate frisbee, submission grappling, soccer, and Sandhurst. So the image here is Sandhurst, and if I'm not mistaken, that's company I-4, and they won the Sandhurst competition last year, so good job. And now, evaluator and success. These are a couple highlights of some of the achievements of our sports teams over this past academic year. So, as we all have mentioned, we beat Navy. For the first time in collegiate history, the men's and women's boxing team have won the national title, so it's a big deal. Aiden's team, the judo team, won the national title, indoor and outdoor track. What did they do? They beat Navy. The parachute team won the national title, climbing as well, and men's lacrosse beat Notre Dame, which is a very competitive civilian school, so it was a big deal. And finally, the physical pillar is 35% of your overall cumulative GPA at the academy, so it's a very large chunk of what we do is focused on, maintaining a high physical standard of excellence at the academy. And going forward, the Army physical fitness test that I mentioned earlier is moving and transitioning into the military pillar, as Sean talked about earlier. So it will no longer be considered a part of your physical grade while at the academy. And different Department of Physical Education classes are rated differently, just to assess what's more important, what do we value more. So as I mentioned, personal fitness, to talk about the diet and the importance of exercise, that's the highest weighting Department of Physical Education class. And finally, the IOCT weighs 20% of your overall physical grade. So this concludes my portion of the physical pillar. I'll now be followed by Cadet Jim and Julo, and he'll talk to all about therapy. Finally, the physical pillar is 35% of your overall cumulative GPA at the academy, so it's a very large chunk of what we do is focused on, maintaining a high physical standard of excellence at the academy. And going forward, the Army physical fitness test that I mentioned earlier is moving and transitioning into the military pillar, talked about earlier, so it will no longer be considered a part of your physical grade while at the academy. And different Department of Physical Education classes are rated differently just to assess like what's more important, what do we value more. So as I mentioned, personal fitness, to talk about the diet and the importance of exercise, that's the highest weighting Department of Physical Education class. And finally, the IOCT weighs 20% of your overall physical grade. So this concludes my portion of the physical pillar. I'll now be followed by Cadet Jim and Julo, and he'll talk to all about therapy.
Hello everybody, I am Cadet Jim Angulo. I, like the rest of my fellow classmates from West Point here today, am also a cow. I am from the state of Florida, back in the USA. I am a proud member of the Cadet Spirit Band, a war tuba. You can ask me more about that after the presentation's over if you're interested. And without further ado, I'm going to be moving into a discussion on the character pillar. Now, beginning this conversation, I'm going to bring up that this character pillar is one of the newest pillars that the Academy has chosen to add to the leader development system. The unique thing about the character pillar is that it kind of bleeds over into the other three pillars in this leader development system. Everything you do in the physical spectrum, the military and academic spectrum, in some way, shape, or form, can be linked back to your character as an individual, which is why West Point deemed it necessary to create a fourth pillar character, which we're going to move into now. Now, as you can see on the screen here, this is a picture of the plaque that is out front of our academy. You can visit any time and see this plaque standing there. It has simply engraved on it our cadet honor code. It states a cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do. Now it is a very simple statement, only one sentence long, but its meaning is profound. The very first day that a civilian enters into the academy, we call it our R Day, they are given a card with this statement engraved on the front of it. Now the reason we give them that card, the reason we teach them from day one what our honor code is at the academy, is because we're trying to develop their character. When we say that a cadet will not lie, cheat, steal, or tolerate those who do, we mean that they will police not only themselves, but those around them. And that is a reflection of their character. So from day one, we were starting to get candidates, new cadets, and then cadets thinking about their role in the bigger picture of things. Now, I've been throwing the word character around a lot, like it's a simple definition to a word you can find in the dictionary, you can Google it online. But I'm sure if any of you have ever thought about what your definition for character is, and then compared it with your friend's idea, the two never matched up. So a problem that West Point, your academy, and every other academy around the world is having right now is how do you identify, teach, and then assess a term like character when we can't agree on the definition. So, respectfully, character has many definitions, making it a problem in and of itself to decide how we're going to grade that. A very helpful tool that West Point uses in defining, looking at, and then grading character is reflection. Now reflection, when I bring it up in this presentation, is a cadet's ability to see both success and failure in their life at the academy. It could be anything from failing a test, coming short on a physical competition with your friends, or something happening with your family life that makes you stop, look at it, take the good and the bad from the situation, and then use either your winning or failing at the end of the day to help an individual. A way we do that for young cadets and then eventually incorporate the senior cadets later on is through our mentorship program at the academy. Our mentorship program is quite robust, featuring many different aspects, ranging from ground level mentoring all the way up to officers mentoring cadets. As you can see here, we have something called the Army Mentorship Program, which, as I mentioned earlier, is for cadets who have found shortcomings in their performance. They've had issues in the past, and they've actually had to be shipped out to our actual Army, where they are paired up with actual non-commissioned officers, enlisted members of the Army, as well as active duty officers who work with them one-on-one to correct their mistakes they made in the past while a cadet, and then they send them back after a period of time to the academy where they can prove themselves and then, without repercussion, graduate from the academy and become an officer like the rest of their peers. Now, while at the academy, cadets also have access to cadet mentors, which means any individual in this room right here, at any given point in time, could be paired up with another one of their peers or a superior cadet that they could go to, and that cadet can be accountable for them. If they have an issue at home or at the academy, they can approach that cadet for counsel, advice, or general information. And having a resource like that, we found, is a game changer in developing one's character. Once everything around them is taken care of, the cadet is able to reflect more on their part in the academy and what their performance means to them, which will in turn positively affect their character. Another aspect of our mentorship program is the next line supervisor. So as you can see in our picture up here, we have a cadet being mentored one-on-one by an enlisted member who works at the academy. Somebody who has experience in the real Army. It could also be an officer. We don't limit cadets to experiences just in the officer corps. We find that there's a wealth of experience in the non-commissioned officer corps as well that cadets can benefit from. So, cadets can also approach a member of the enlisted or the officer corps to ask them for advice, seek counsel, or consult them on their successes or failures as a cadet so that they may learn and then become better over time. Like I said before, in our character development system, the West Point character development system is cadet run. We take pride in having a core and a program such as this that is primarily cadet run, with officers and non-commissioned officers serving in a more supervisory capacity to the Corps of Cadets. And in this program, again, we focus on the cadets' character development through reflection, which again is encompassed by the other three pillars as well. We find that a cadet who has strong character will also have no problem performing in the military, academic, or physical pillars. So, some of the physical tools we use at the academy to measure character, because up to this point my conversation has been kind of abstract. It's hard to see character, it's hard to write it on the walls that everybody else can agree on its definition. So here are some of the things that West Point does to identify an individual's character compared to their peers, when there's more than one grader, when things have an opportunity to get very confusing. West Point likes to employ the Periodic Development Report, which is a spreadsheet listing any given cadet's character attributes on a scale identified by the U.S. Army. From there, each attribute is broken down into 4 or 5 different terms related to that attribute, so it makes it easier to describe when you think about that cadet. So we're making it easier, more feasible for any cadet to rate their peer based on a set of values that we can all agree upon. We're finding a common ground and then moving out from there to try and measure ourselves against what we all hold in common. Another, more on-the-spot tool that the Corps of Cadets back at West Point likes to use is the Cadet Observation Report. So, the Cadet Observation Report is an on-the-spot observation. If you see your friend or a fellow cadet make a mistake, they forget to clean their room, they fail inspection, and it's a repeat problem, you can write a cadet observation report, a negative cadet observation report that your chain of command will see, your officers will see. It's on their permanent record. And that's not meant to degrade them. That is not meant to put them behind their peers. That is meant for that cadet to see their mistake, change their behavior, and then 2, 3, 4 years down the line, should they make that mistake as a freshman, a plebe, when they don't know anything, they can look back, see what they did wrong, and then compare how far they've developed their character from day one when they were civilians. So we use these tools, these PDRs and these CORs, because we love acronyms. We use these tools to measure development over time. The easiest thing to do when dealing with character is compare your progress to your past in general. And again, a unique thing about the military academy is that we stress not only your successes, but your failures as learning points along your path to development. One of the interesting things that I've learned while being a cadet at the academy is that it's not so much what I do right that matters, but where I've fallen short in my time as a cadet, where I have the opportunity to make a mistake, when lives aren't at risk, when the grander scheme of things doesn't depend on that decision because I'm a cadet. I've been given room to make mistakes. I've been given time to develop myself, further my character development, become better in subject matter, material, everything. So, finally moving into measuring the outcomes for character development. This is how we compare ourselves with the rest of the world, how we provide ourselves with world-class tools that are recognized by the rest of America, the rest of the academies around the world. We employ at West Point the following resources. We have the Center for Enhanced Performance, which is a joint military personnel and civilian kind of task force that works with cadets year-round using things called egg chairs, relaxation techniques, things that you would initially think would hold weight in a military setting. But through years of trial and error and experimentation, we found these surprising methods for getting cadets to perform past their barriers, perform higher than they thought they could. The Center for Enhanced Performance, or CEP, is that resource for cadets. Push past barriers, help them recover from stress, which I'm sure all of you have felt at some point or another. Everybody's felt a little bit stressed. This resource is to help combat situations where the future looks bleak, and maybe you start to doubt yourself without giving yourself a fair chance. Moving into a different kind of resource, we have the Cadet Character Development Program, which again is a more cadet-led program at West Point. It is a small group, one-on-one type resource that cadets can use to talk to their older peers without pressure, without fear of rank or repercussion, that helps cadets work through personal issues or go through certain scenarios in workbooks where they can see real-life examples where your character will be challenged. The answer won't always be clear, as has been stated before by my peers. You'll need to work using your critical thinking skills to identify the right answer given the situation, the audience, and the amount of time you've been given to work. And then finally, we have a very unique, very new kind of leadership resource, character development resource called Leaders Challenge, which some of you will be participating in the near future later on this week, led by me and my peers. It takes a look at real life scenarios that have happened. These things have happened in our Army, so we're able to look at the situation, dissect it, and then take away the key points as far as character development is concerned from that example. And then finally, when you get down to it, character development is really sharing personal stories of times that I've fallen short, times that I might have done better than I planned to, or your peers have fallen short. Everybody likes to share personal stories when we lock each other in a classroom for an hour after lunch, and we start to ponder what can we do to develop a character. That perhaps is one of the most valuable resources in the character development pillar, is personal stories. And then a very unique, as I said before, we have many unique things. Well, one of the most unique things about the Corps Cadets is that they are self-policing with something we call the honor system. Now, the entirety of the honor system takes place in this building you see right here. We call that Manager Hall. A lot of cadets are afraid of Manager Hall because that's where honor boards happen. So, an honor board is basically any violation of the cadet honor code, which we saw earlier, that a cadet does not abide by. It could be anything from cheating on a paper to skipping class knowingly and lying about where you were, anything related to your honor, right? Now the point of the honor system is to give cadets a fair trial before their peers, kind of like a natural civilian law system. So, if you're accused of violating your honor, which is a very serious accusation at the academy, you have the opportunity to prove your innocence before your peers. Your peers decide your fate, which is a very unique thing at the academy. Knowing that you can put all of your faith in your future, essentially, into your cadet peers is a very special kind of feeling. So, the honor system, again, is very unique. The committee of your peers decides your innocence, and they deal on all issues regarding the honor system. So that way we can hold ourselves accountable for our character, and when we fall short, we correct ourselves, and if we do well, we can also receive positive COR in addition to the negative COR that I mentioned earlier, as well as praise from other cadets, officers, and in general, have the opportunity to receive performance-related awards in your company. Now, that concludes my brief on the character pillar. And if I could please be joined by Captain Absalon and my peers at the front of the stage here, we'll be happy to take any and all questions that you may have. Thank you.
I point this question to Cadet Jim. You as the rank holder, what if one of your men or maybe your juniors have attitudes problem, or maybe they disobey your orders? How do you handle that? What do you do?
That's a very good question. This does happen at West Point. I'm sure it happens here as well. So when you have somebody who doesn't like playing by the rules, who finds himself at the United States Military Academy, which is very rare, but it does happen, the way we like to handle that individual is we start from the bottom up. So if I have somebody who I'm in charge of that doesn't like taking my orders or respecting my command, I will get with them one-on-one. If I have to, I will get in their face and I will let them know that I am in charge of you and you will take my orders, or you will get, we like to call it the carrot and the stick, you will get the stick. You will no longer be led to where I want you to go with the carrot. So we have a series of punishments ranging from mild to very harsh for dealing with people like that. So again, like I talked about the CORs, if they continue to not listen to me, I'll give them a negative COR, which comes with me talking to them about that COR. If that proves to be a problem still, I will get with my chain of command, people in charge of me. We will have that cadet happily marching hours back and forth in our central area with their rifle in their right hand and their dress uniform on in rain, hail, sleet, and snow until their time is up, and hopefully they can turn over a new leaf. But if they decide they want to come back to me after they have marched hours, after they have gotten a negative COR, after I have talked to them about their disobedience or whatever cause they're having, they could even be removed from the academy at that point. If they've marched hours, if they've been talked to, they'll be brought into our commandant's office, and they'll be talked to one-on-one about if the academy that they're at right now is right for them, and any actions they want to take on their part to either help them leave the academy and transition to civilian life where it's more suited for them, or change who they are drastically, conform to a more military identity, which they apparently steadfastly want to adhere to, given the fact they're talking to our commandant, and they still want to be at the academy after all this.
I think it's important to pause for a second and think about when he says mild is very harsh, it's all within reason. Peer leadership is the toughest thing to do. Peer leadership is the toughest thing to do regardless of what nation, what army, what service, Navy, Air Force you're a part of. It is easy to lead when you have rank. It is easy for me to tell the four of them what to do. I outrank them by 10 years. That's not hard. It is hard for them to tell each other what to do. So if one of them has an attitude, it's a challenge to you as a leader to find a creative, legal, moral, and ethical way to handle that problem. And I know there's been recent events here at this university. We've had problems with hazing, and we've had consequences of those that are in our 200-year history. And when you start to lose sight of what is right, what is moral, what is ethical, what is legal, it can be challenging. And we lose sight of that when we get emotional, when we get passionate about it. Well, I'm the leader. Why isn't he or she listening to me? Why is it so hard? It's hard because it's leadership. Leadership is hard, regardless of what branch, regardless of what service you're a part of. So finding ways to address people who may not be the best followers is tough and it's challenging. And trust me, everybody in this room, including the two of us, have not been the best followers at times. We've been difficult for our leaders. Right? And our leaders had to find creative ways to teach us a lesson or two. I have like 10 lessons now.
By inspiration, or you can lead by fear. Sometimes you can lead by fear and you can get away with it. Like if you are on a sports team and someone misses practice because they were taking a nap. You can say, you're gonna run a lot, you're gonna do all this stuff, and that's by fear, you know, but when you're in the military and there are lives at stake, or in any leadership in the world, your president, your leadership, your political leadership, it's very important to lead by passion and to inspire the people that are underneath you. And at West Point, we try to do that a lot with an example of the character development program that Jim was talking about, called a PDR, a personal development review. So not only would one of my peers evaluate me, but I evaluate the person who is in charge of me. So let's say the person who's in charge of me, they just yell at me all the time. So I do my job, but I don't really like it. And they don't really inspire me to be better. They inspire me just to do the minimum, just to get by. Then I would write that on my review. The person in charge of them would read it and say, wow, I was just looking at, the job was getting done, everything seemed good. But obviously, we need to help this person. So things written down on paper that are passed up above you really do make a difference at the academy. And so even though it looks like the job's getting done, there may be more going on with the leadership style. And it's okay, if you're leading by fear right now. The importance is to evaluate it every day. So, maybe this morning you said something to someone you're in charge of, and you realize now that it wasn't that great. But that's the great thing about being at an academy, is that you're learning, and you have the opportunity to make mistakes. So just hope that your peers will forgive you, and you can just grow from it.
The thing about leading through either motivation or through fear is that our Army has found that over time, leading through fear doesn't necessarily form a bond between you and your subordinates the way that leading through motivation and respect does. So, if you have the opportunity to choose between leading through fear and leading through motivation, through respect, through support to get your guys where they need to be, it behooves you, and I'm going to use the word behoove, sorry, to take more of a supportive, solid, foundational, motivational leadership type role with your subordinates in the long run, so that they have a respect for you, they'll work harder for you, and they will work when you're not around to get the job done to the standard that you would want it to be at. If you do use fear in your leadership,
serve for the military 5 years, and then after 5 years you have freedom to get involved into the civilian company. I mean, you can work into the civilian company, or you get any offer from the military to continue your years to be an army officer. That's all for me. Thank you.
It's just like punishment, although it's not the only solution to use. Like Jim talked about earlier, there are times to punish an individual, like with hours and such. Generally, like punishment is used more during summer training. If you mess up down there, you'll all get dropped for push-ups or you take some sort of Yeah, when I first came to West Point, I didn't think collective punishment had any place in the military. Although after 2 years, I do think that it can serve a purpose. I think when you punish somebody, you have to think about it why you're doing it. If you're using collective punishment just to hurt the person because you're upset at the way they acted, then there's no purpose in that. But for example, when I was at airborne school, our entire platoon got dropped for push-ups because our instructors mad at us. And like through that experience, we bonded as a platoon. We became closer together. So if using collective punishment more as a way to build people up and instill that disparity core, then yes, collective punishment serves a purpose. But if you're using it, and it's the same as any type of punishment, are you using it for retributive or rehabilitative? So that's my 2 cents. Though West Point is big in collective punishment as well.